most awaited sections, that is okay, sorry about the inconvenience. Okay, we proceed to the next agenda. Now we come into the most awaited sections, that is a class sessions with our special speaker, the one and only Mr. Leopold Sudaryono, SHLLM, the criminology expert from Universitas Indonesia. And today we have an interesting topic that we will talking about criminology from Indonesian perspective that will be guided by our moderator, Dr. Afif Mahfud SHMH. But before that, I would like to introduce our moderator based on his CV. Okay, we have Dr. Afif Mahfud SHMH, the lecturer at Faculty of Law, Universitas Diponegoro. He born on 6 January 1991 at Bau-Bau, Sulawesi Tenggara Province, Indonesia. He obtained his undergraduate, master degree, and post degree in the Universitas Diponegoro. He also write a lot of scientific paper like Journal International Terpendek Scopus, Actualizations of Land Social Function in Resolving Land Conflict in a urban area, land case study buildings in urban Bandung City, and still has a lot of scientific paper. And all right, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Afif Mahfud, SHMH.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for your nice opening. I think it's very good for having you over here right now. And good morning, everyone. Pak Leopold Sudaryono and all of the participants in this good occasion in our summit. Actually, today we are going to talk more about imprisonment and death penalty. And the speaker today is the one and only is Leopold Sudaryono. He is the expert of criminology. Mr. Leopold Sudaryono graduated from Diponegoro University for his bachelor degree, and he got his master and degree in Leicester University of Leicester, United Kingdom, and got postgraduate diploma from University of Cape Town, South Africa, with area of study transitional justice. And then right now he is pursuing his education in criminology major in Australian National University. He is right now working as the lecturer of Indonesian University in Jakarta. I think without any further ado, we are going to discuss, and it's an honor to me for presenting Mr. Leopold Sudaryono. Mr. Leopold Sudaryono.
Thank you, Mas Afif. Is it on?
Yes.
Okay, just let me know if you, because I think there's like a some kind of connection problem from my end. So good morning, everyone. My name is Leopold, as Mas Afif has generously introduced me. Um, the topic that we will be discussing, I will be presenting the file from my computer, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to share it by yourself?
Yeah.
I'll close myself.
You can see the cover. Yeah?
Yes, you can see your.
Okay, so for I think almost the next 2 hours, we will be discussing a topic that I think rather depressing than fascinating. Yeah, it's about death penalty in Indonesia. I pick this topic because I think there will be interesting things to discuss between us, because I learned that participating in this course coming from Malaysia, Thailand, in the region, including Australia. So at the end of the discussion, maybe in the last 30 minutes or so, I would like to also hear how in your countries government still using imprisonment, or if there's still any death penalty, yeah, in governing crimes. I will be frequently refer to Foucault, because I will be using his triangle of governing crime. It helps us to understand that actually government has options in dealing with deviance, with crimes. Okay, let's start with a bit of like genealogy of death penalty. Indonesia has been, I think, criticized in the last 3-4 years for has been considered very barbaric, yeah, in executing almost 16 convicts, yeah, and not until like international pressures really put Jokowi on difficult situation, and also because a number of like cases with our TKI or with our migrant workers, that it stops the government to continue with the execution. But actually, Indonesia share the history of death penalty with other state in the world, particularly during the pre-colonial and colonial era. At that time, king or sultan or other tribe leaders holds absolute power over their territory and population. Therefore, any attack toward their territories, like war or rebellion or crimes, yeah, is considered a challenge to sovereignty, because crimes not only violate the law, but also undermine the authority of the rulers. It's considered so, and therefore the reaction, the response of the state or the ruler is warlike toward crimes by using extreme power, yeah, by imposing excessive torture to the offenders, yeah, and rulers in this case, yeah. Sorry. Okay. And rulers in this case deal with the attack, deal with the crime by resorting to their ultimate rights, yeah, the rights to take life or to let live. Yeah. And in theocracy, crime is also considered not only violation of the law, but also a sin, yeah, a challenge to God's law, to God directly. Therefore, in theocracy, the sentence meant to cleanse the offenders, the body, yeah, with torture, yeah, to purge the sin, the wrongdoings, by applying extreme torture. Death penalty at that time serves three functions. I think until now, it still does. First one is retaliation. The second one is incapacitation, to make sure that the offenders will not repeat the crimes. If it's related with, challenging the sovereignty of the kings, yeah, they will be simply like beheaded to ensure there will be like no more challenge. Or if they get caught like stealing, yeah, they will get their hand chopped off or mutilated, yeah, to make sure permanent incapacitation. And also it serves the function as a threat to any future offenders, or we call it deterrent. Sorry for the typo. So that penalty is a public display and also a reminder to public that rulers, in fact, has unchallenged sovereignty over its subject. So this kind of model, this kind of primary strategy to deal with crimes, Foucault termed it as sovereignty model, yeah, in which rulers deal with crimes by asserting its sovereignty. At that time, by imposing physical punishment. And I think up to now, if you witness any execution, yeah, actually it serves basically the same thing, that the rulers say that we have unchallenged authority, yeah, ultimate power over your life. And this is still actually the same message that we receive now, like our ancestors, like hundreds or 1,000 years ago. And I think it will get more depressing as we go on. You can just stop me now anytime if you have any questions, because otherwise I will just keep continuing. Yeah. And during the colonial era, so I would like to move a bit to Indonesia. This the picture in the background is the execution of peasants, Jambi peasants, yeah, who involved in the killing of controller Crozen, yeah, in 1907. This is from Tropen Museum, yeah, the pictures, yeah. During the colonial era, death penalty was used more frequently to crack down resistance or aspiration for freedom. And the data shows, yeah, by Ball, that execution in Batavia, or the old name of Jakarta, twice the number of execution in Amsterdam, while actually the number of population in Batavia is less than a tenth of those in Amsterdam. So it shows that if we compare the policy of using that penalty in Europe and in colony, where actually they're kind of like using similar criminal code, is completely different. Execution not only individuals, particularly in the colony, but also collective, or actually mostly collective, like what happened in Banda in 1621, and also in Batavia 1742. Banda, I think it relates with the revolt of the Bandanese, yeah, against the Dutch at that time. There has been like major shift in the Europe. If in the previous slide I mentioned about sovereignty model, in which rulers, yeah, impose their ultimate power over its population, there are some changes, shift in the Europe with the emerging of Renaissance or Enlightenment, yeah, in the 17th or 18th century, in which the movement promotes that ruler had no absolute power over its subject. Yeah, its power is limited and should be limited by constitution or what we know as constitutionalism. So this marked the end of like absolutism era. Yeah, and also because of that, crime is no longer constitute or be considered as a challenge to sovereignty. Yeah. Because a ruler act more as like the administrator, yeah, no longer as the owner of the state. And also during this enlightenment, there's a movement to separate religion from politics. Therefore, crime is no longer considered challenging or as a sin, yeah, but more has like a social dimension, not transcendental. And also, there's like a shift on the type of crimes, yeah, no longer on the crimes that considered political, but more on the property, yeah, like stealing and then occupying lands, yeah, and there's like more call to respect for human rights in this era, and all these changes, yeah, spread out particularly after the French Revolution, which at the time affect many justice system in the Europe, yeah, in many states in Europe. Even Russia at that time starts to accommodate constitutionalism by installing criminal code like the Napoleonic criminal code. Yeah, so crime is no longer considered as a challenge to the authority, but considered as like a social problems, and therefore the type of sentence is also shifted, yeah, from excessive torture, bodily torture, toward more targeting minds, yeah, because at the time with the growing of science, psychology, medical, yeah, uh, people believe that actually we can deal with offenders by changing their minds, yeah, through disciplines and repeat treatments. And therefore, the type of punishment shifted, yeah, from torture toward more work. Like they have to serve in workhouse. Workhouse. This is a picture of a workhouse in London, in which they have to work. It's not really like forced work, but if they don't work, it will be considered like they fail to apa namanya to serve, ya. And also in manufacture or in prison in galley. And I think this is around the revolusi industri, ya, in which there's a need to produce more products, and it is not logical to mutilate a thief because it will just create more burden to society. So it's better to put them in work so they can be productive and give back to society. And it actually incentivize or stimulate justice system to bring more people to justice, even like beggars, yeah, vagabond, yeah, so they can be sent to workhouse to work, particularly in the era of war, yeah. So they will work to produce supplies for war. And Foucault called this new model of punishment as discipline, because the offenders will have to wake up at 6 every morning. Yeah, they will have their breakfast, praying. Yeah, and then they will work from 8 to 3 or to 4 every day. There will be like a priest coming preaching. Yeah, they will go to bed, take shower. So by imposing routines, yeah, by making them at productive states, it is expected that the offenders will repent. Yeah, they will understand their mistakes and becoming more productive. Once their term ended, they can return to society being a better person. So this is the change of the mindset which happened between 1600 to 1800. And this shift or this model of punishment, I think we still retain it until now, and it become the primary strategy of many states. After the World War II, there has been some uh, decrease of the use of prison because of the emerging of human rights as declared by the UN with the Bill of Rights. And we experienced like 2 decades, 2 or 3 decades between the 50s to the 70s, yeah, in which the ideas of penal welfareism blossom. Yeah, you may heard that it is the responsibility of the state not only to put them in the prison, but also to ensure their welfare is guaranteed, that they have like better education, so we can send them back to society better person. Yeah. Although there will be like changes, I will discuss it later on after the 70s with the coming of war on drugs. So death penalty still exists, but very limited to military crimes like treasons or espionage, yeah, or other equivalent serious offenses. So it's not completely disappeared in some countries. Yeah, they still retain. However, those changes, yeah, the shift that I just mentioned, yeah, did not really reach Indonesia until around 1918, where we introduced the Wetboek van Strafrecht. So death penalty and other type of torture still being used as primary means to control the colony. This is the collective execution in Bekasi against they are peasants. Yeah, I think around 60 of them are executed that day for protesting against the Dutch. Yeah. Until 1918, when the Netherlands introduced Wetboek van Strafrecht. So the book, the criminal code, actually has been applied in the Netherlands since early 1800. Yeah, after the French occupied Netherlands, yeah, introduced a code, Napoleonic Code, yeah, which then adopted by the Dutch. But there's been some debates in the parliament whether or not to apply the same code to colony. Yeah, and it takes like around like 100 years before finally reach Indonesia at that time. However, even though in the Netherlands death penalty has been revoked, yeah, in the Wetboek van Strafrecht applied in Indonesia, death penalty is still retained. Yeah, particularly for political crime or other general crimes that relates with public order. Yeah. So like anslah is like makar in Indonesia. It's like attack toward government. Yeah. KUHP, the criminal code installed in 1988, is still being used by Indonesia until now. This is much to the failure of Indonesia to formulate its own. There are a number of like attempts to formulate our own, but considering the diversity of the nation, there has been like at least three legal system that need to be consolidated. Yeah, the first one is Sharia, Islamic law. The second one is customary law, local law, non-Sharia, and then the second one is the Western law, which is followed by the Christian. And it is not easy. I think in 1955 we have tried, and since it becomes so contentious, we postpone it. And then in the 1990s, yeah, also postponed by Suharto after the team has finalized the draft, yeah, by Prof. Muladi, yeah, Mas Afif teachers, yeah, and also after the reform by SBY, it has been tabled twice in both his terms, but also failed, yeah, postponed, and also last one by Jokowi is also postponed because it invite protests across the country. So I think government decided to just use whatever they have now because it's quite politically risky for them to formulate our own, yeah, considering the contentious values that we have. So now let's talk about reform era. There's a challenge that the post-Orde Baru regime have. Post-Orde Baru is after 98, yeah, post-98. You may be aware, particularly with our brothers and sisters from Malaysia, that between mid-90s to mid-2000, Indonesia suffered almost a decade of communal violence, of conflicts, which kills more than 21,000 civilian people directly, yeah, in the conflicts. Yeah, it happens in 17 provinces out of 30, 30 provinces that we have. So it happened almost everywhere. It displaced almost 1 million people internally. Yeah, and this is a challenge for post Suharto regime, how to restore order after this decade of anomie, if you're using Merton, yeah, decade of anomie, because there's like public distrust toward the law, to justice system, also to the police. They consider that police has been discriminatory in dealing with crimes, and this is the reason why incidents easily or quickly develop into communal violence. And this is something that not easy for a new government, for a new regime to start with. Yeah. And also at the time we have a high unemployment rate due to 98 economic crisis which hit us very badly at that time. We have around 42 million people when unemployed because of the crisis. And also we have like a global phenomenon at the time on terrorism and drugs. So soon, very soon after the attack on 9/11 on New York, Indonesia also have our own episode in Bali 2002, which kills more than 200 people. Yeah, and then we have like a series of about terrorist attack at that time. And also after the reform, Indonesia is no longer only as a transit area for drugs. We become like the market for drugs, yeah, in the region. So dealing with this, what government done or has been doing is by relying on criminal policy, yeah, by imposing harsher sentencing policy, yeah, criminalization. Between 2004 to 2012, we introduced around 716 new offenses. Some of them are already there, but there used to be administrative violation. So you will get fined for doing that. But then the government decided to change it into offenses, yeah, in which 96% of the offenses, yeah, comes with imprisonment. Uh, the state, Indonesia, also increased the minimum mandatory sentence, which is a new thing because our criminal code, what we have is more like a maximum sentence. But now, after the reform, we have minimum mandatory sentence, particularly with the drug offenses. There are also 8 new laws and 33 new offenses coming with death sentence. So not only relying on imprisonment, but also with death sentence. Yeah. The other problem is that KUHAP, the Criminal Procedure Code, is no longer the colonial Dutch one. Yeah, this already the product of Indonesian government, of Orde Baru government. It's enacted in 1982, but it is a product of a very authoritarian regime, which doesn't recognize the principle of accountability, transparency, and very poor in protecting the rights of defendants. So yes, in law school, we were taught that this is the masterpiece at the time in 1982. Yeah, but 40 years later, now, yeah, it's obsolete. Yeah, it doesn't respect the rights of defendants. Yeah. If, as an investigator, you torture defendants, yeah, it will not result in mistrial, like what happened in other modern law system. And also, there's no obligation for me as investigator to give you the rights to get counsel, yeah, legal counselor at any time. You can have counselor, but the counselor should wait outside while I'm doing the interrogation. So you can see that up to now, the Criminal Procedure Code is, I think a century behind the modern law has. Yeah. And in the case that resulted with death sentence, yeah, in our death rows, we found that 11 cases of alleged torture that during the investigation. So how could you expect the death sentence will be fair if the confession obtained during the investigation is using torture? Yeah, if the information also using torture. But even though it is, stated by the defendants, the judge, according to the procedure code, cannot just dismiss the case. Yeah, this is very militaristic criminal procedure code, because we have a very militaristic government at the time. And then 16 cases of maladministration or other breach of procedure. Usually, at the time, the police or the military just detain people, yeah, without proper warrant or a letter, yeah, which actually can be used in other jurisdiction as a mistrial, but not in Indonesia. We just backdate the letter. And there's like access to legal counsel that has been denied, yeah, in 7 cases. And how can you expect the defendants can fairly defend themselves, yeah, in the cases that resulted in that sentence? And the other problem is that our criminal code, KUHP, only recognize imprisonment and fine. Yeah, this is a very old. This is actually, there's no much changes, yeah, from the Napoleonic Code, yeah, in 1820, 1880. So it's like like centuries behind. No alternative sentences whatsoever. Even the Wetboek van Strafrecht, almost the same criminal code that the Netherlands is still using now, has like so much changes, particularly by adding more alternative sentences like community service, probation, which very relaxed procedures, which allows judges to hand more lenient sentence, not necessarily imprisonment. And also, ICGR, Institute for Criminal Justice Reform, observe the increased use of death sentence in the reform area. Yeah, from 4 verdicts per year, now it reached 36 verdicts, yeah, of death sentence per year. And as the result of these two problem with the KUHP, yeah, and also the war on drugs, we have the situation with prison overcrowding. This is the chart from 2000 to 2008. I have the one until 2020. Which shows the problem still continues. Until 2004, 2003, actually the red one is the number of inmates. The yellow one is the number of prison capacity. So up to 2003, yeah, 3-4 years after the reform, we don't have a situation with prison overcrowding, yeah. So it is still within the capacity. But then starting 2004, yeah, with the war on drugs and heavy criminalization policy, the number of inmates going uncontrollably, yeah. There's an attempt by Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, yeah, in his second term here. This is his first term, yeah, and this is his second term, to kind of like shift the policy toward more decriminalization, yeah, by stating that drug users not necessarily be sentenced to prisons. There should be like other more lenient punishment. But then after Jokowi race, I think just like within a month, Jokowi stated that declared zero tolerance toward drugs, yeah, offense, and then ask the Attorney General to clear the death row. Ya, itu membersihkan death row. It's kind of like like very disturbing statement at that time. So Jokowi, I think, like SBY in the first term, use the penal populism, yeah, the fear of crime, to consolidate the power, which resulted with the increased number of inmates. Yeah, the number actually doubled between 2015 to 2021. Yeah, if there's no pandemic and we didn't release 90,000 inmates because of the pandemic, at the moment we have around 340,000 inmates, which is doubled from 5-6 years ago. So the trend is worrying because even during the pandemic, it doesn't show that our law enforcement agencies adopt different strategy. In imprisoning people or in detaining people. This has become a problem because if you compare with the crime statistic, you can see that actually the statistic shows that crimes in Indonesia tends to get steady or even decrease. Yeah, in many types of crimes. The only cases that increase dramatically is this one, the red one, and I think you can figure out what is this. This is drugs-related cases. Yeah, and if you compare within 10 years, yeah, you can see that it is mostly on drugs that the number of inmates increase drastically. The other one, there's some increase, but it's still like within reason. So what happened in the last 15 years is that government has been focusing or prioritizing, yeah, on war on drugs by bringing more people, and they are mostly drug users behind bars. The problem is, in prison that is overcrowded, yeah, you cannot really provide any type of programs to reduce their addiction. So what we have is not only prison overcrowding, like the situation here, but what we have is a challenge to control the circulation of drugs in prison. This is a prison in one area in Jakarta, I cannot mention where. The capacity of the prison is 800. At that moment, they have around 3,200 people. They don't normally sleep together at the same time because they don't have enough space, or we don't normally lock them in the cell because there's not enough space in the cell. So we just let them roam around in the blocks so they can sleep in the alley, in the aisle, yeah, within the block area. But since at that night the minister came, yeah, the guard has to put everyone there, and this is what happened. Now the number increased from 3,200. This is the pictures taken like 13 years ago. The numbers increased to 3,600. Still in a prison designed just for like 800 inmates. So even though in this situation it's very difficult for a prison to function properly, like in terms of security, how can you make sure there will be like no threat of violence, no circulation of drugs or other contraband, yeah, if the ratio of the guard is 1 to 540, like in Banjarmasin. Nationally, we have 1 to 45. In New South Wales, we have around 1 to 4. Also in Canberra. So, as a guard, I only have two choices in this situation. First, if I want to uphold regulation, I cannot maintain order because the inmates will revolt against me. So my priorities will be to make sure everything is in order. Everything is in order meaning like there's no unrest. And I can do that by only compromise a number of like rules. For instance, like the use of mobile phones. Yeah, there's just me against 500 other people. Or I will just let within the blocks, they build their own like structure. Yeah. Or they have their own mechanism to extort money from other inmates. Because I think one of the guards said to me, Mas Afif, Pak, my only weapon is not my pistol because I don't have pistol. My only weapon is Bismillah, just praying. Yeah, because if there's anything happen, I can just run. Like I don't have. They don't like properly train. The guard mostly is like high school graduates, which will receive like 2 weeks. Mostly kesamaptaan. It's like physical drill training. Yeah. They don't have proper training on corrections, on securities, yeah. And the ratio is just like striking. So it's quite amazing how they can maintain order. If you see this situation, you can imagine the kind of compromise between the guards and the inmates has. This is another picture in Kalimantan. Yeah, usually they have to make like different levels in one cell just to make sure everyone has like space to sleep. Still, they will be using sarong. Sarong, apa mas sarong bahasa English in English? It's like textile. Yeah. So they will put it in the ceiling and they just sleep there using the garments. Yeah, they call it like beds. Yeah, like kalong. Yeah, because they don't have enough space to sleep. And what about like water and sanitation? At the end of at this corner they have this open closet. Yeah. So they will stay, they will have to defecate, to urinate openly in the same cells. Yeah. You can imagine the smell, yeah, of the room. The room is actually designed for like 12 people. They have around 45 person at the time. And so in Indonesia, this is my last slide. I also almost run out of my voice. In Indonesia, imprisonment and death penalty remain the state's primary strategy to maintain order and also to assert its sovereignty. So it's like a message to the opposition, because like SBY Jokowi has also to deal with opposition, which is not necessarily or always using parliamentary or formal mechanism. Yeah, they're also using like other channel to put their influence to the public. So the counter narratives, when Jokowi rose to power, one of the label put by the opposition is that he's a weak leader. He's a weak leader. Yeah, and to respond to that, Jokowi used the war on drugs and the fear of crime as the main strategy by executing 16 people as a show of his like willingness to rule. Yeah, this is what we call as by Pratt as penal populism, using punishment as a way to gain populism support. Yeah, and it happened either during the colonial era or even nowadays. Government need to prioritize incorporating restorative justice, yeah, in the criminal code and criminal procedure code. At the moment, there's a plan by the government to restart the deliberation of the criminal code this year, hoping that we can get it legalized before the end of this year. It's almost get legalized 2 years ago, but since there's like a nationwide protests, yeah, particularly toward the articles on cohabitation and on fornication, yeah, I think even the Australian government issued a warning to its citizens to be careful not to travel because there might be a new law which will prohibit extramarital sex, yeah, at the time. So we may bump into the same situation at the end of this year in Indonesia, that the articles on cohabitation is like living together without any matrimonial extra marriage, and also fornication. There's a number of like other articles that has been dropped. Yeah, I was told, but these two will still be like problematic. But if we manage to enact it, the criminal code, because it consists of like two books. The first book is on the principle, on the norms, and it actually already introduced restorative justice by recognizing the importance of fines. It is very elaborate, and also on public service, public community service, yeah, which equivalent to 6 months of imprisonment, and also on probation, yeah, or conditional sentence, in which you can get like part-time imprisonment, like you only have to stay in the prisons during the weekend, so you can still work, or during the night time, so you still can work. Yeah, so it is a progress, but I hope that even though we cannot still decide on the fornication or cohabitation cases, we can postpone the discussion of two articles while enacting the other code. Yeah, so we can discuss it later on, because we really need like a newer criminal code. Yeah, not 200 old years criminal code. And also criminal procedure code, maybe we already have the draft, yeah, in which will limit the authority of the police to detain down to 5 days maximum. Yeah. In the current criminal procedure code, if you get detained, yeah, you will not see any judge until almost 4 months. So you will get detained for 4 months. It's just like general crimes, yeah, not terrorism. The police and the prosecutors can detain a person up to 110 days. So by the time you will arrive in the courtroom, yeah, you already be in detention in the remand centers for like 4 months, and the judge normally will just give you minimum 4 months of imprisonment. So state doesn't have to recompensate, which is a problem because we don't have very clear implementing regulation about it. So once you're detained, it is most likely you will get at least 4 months of imprisonment. This is what the criminal procedure code now have. You cannot ask for the bail, no. But the bill at the moment that we will deliberate, hopefully next year, yeah, will reduce the day to only 5 days. So after 5 days, police has to present your case to a magistrate to decide whether you can be detained further. And it will be the judge or the magistrate, yeah, which will decide, not the police. At the moment, it is the police who will decide whether or not to extend your detention. You can ask for suspension of detention, or you can ask alternative detention, but to the police. And it is the police who will decide, not the court at the moment. Yeah. And this not really, reflects any transparency or accountability, because the one who detain is the one who decide whether your detention can be extended or not. Yeah. So as I mentioned, this is the product of authoritarian militaristic regime. And government needs to adopt a non-penal policy in governing population, not only by threatening punishment, but by fostering the capacity and incentivizing the people in self-governing, particularly during the pandemic. Yeah, you don't have to bring people to prison for refusing vaccines or to, you can just incentivize them. If you get yourself vaccinated, then there will be like a number of incentives you may attain. And it is actually much cheaper than just bring people to prison. I think as the introduction, because we might discuss more, Mas Afif, this is all that I have in my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Leopold Sudaryono. I think it's very interesting and also very insightful presentation. There are a lot of things that we can get from presentation. So before moving to question and answer session, please to all of the participants to turn on your camera. Okay, Mr. Leopold Sudaryono, right now we have one question on our room. There is a question, if the death penalty proven to be more effective than other means of punishment, and then if yes, can the death penalty still be justified or for ordinary crimes or crime against humanity? What do you think about that? Whether death penalty is still more effective? Can you hear me?
Okay. Sorry, I think I missed some part of your sentence.
Okay.
Do,
So
do I
actually,
think still effective?
yeah. Do you think that death penalty in Indonesia is more effective than other means of uh, maybe punishment? And then if it's still effective, actually whether it's still justified for ordinary crimes or crimes against humanity.
Okay, thank you. I think I need
So
to state it here that in the particularly in the situation of Indonesian justice system, which is as I just mentioned very elaborately, has many flaws. Yeah, um, imposing that penalty is unfair, is cruel. Why? Because we still have problems with irregularities during the investigation. Yeah, we still have problem with the practice of apa namanya extortion. Yeah, we still have problems with torture. Yeah, how can you expect, yeah, from a justice system that full of flaws, yeah, we deliver the most ultimate sentence, which is I think belongs to God, the right to life. Yeah. Uh, what if, and this happened in a number of cases like Jane, yang from Mary Jane from Philippines. Yeah, we are very fortunate that we postpone the execution because it turns out, yeah, when more information revealed, she's not the one. Yeah, she's only a victim as a courier. So I think, and I don't know if there's like one system in the world, yeah, if there's like any state that you can put as example, this is a perfect one, no flaws. Yeah, so we can have like death penalty, but I don't think we should use death penalty. If you want, we need to look at the purpose of the punishment. There are a number, yeah. The first one is retaliation, yeah. The second one is incapacitation, yeah. There's like deterrence, restoration by apa restoring the rights of the victim, yeah, by rehabilitating, yeah. My question is, there will be other sentences that can serve this function better than death penalty, even for crimes against humanity. Yeah. It will be more detrimental actually for the offenders to get life sentence without any remission. Yeah. So they and also for terrorists. Yeah, after like killing like 20 or 30 innocent people. Yeah, actually what they look for is to be immortalized by being a martyr, by being executed. Yeah, you will punish them more by this, by just like put them behind bars for life. If we talk about retribution and incapacitation. So I prefer life sentence without any possible remission or parole. Yeah, and then death penalty. And let's wait if there's other novum or new evidence showed up. This is my position, Mas Afif.
yeah, I think it's very clear answer about the patient. We have several other patients right now. One of them is from Taiwan. He is a student of Universitas Kebangsaan Malaysia, so it's a foreigner. He said he asked you about actually right now the case in Indonesia, especially the drug case in Indonesia and also in Malaysia is hiking up. So whether it's good or better for Indonesia and also Malaysia to follow the way of Philippines in combating drug abuse over there, and whether you agree on the way which is chosen by Philippines in combating drug abuse in their country. What do you think about it, Mr. Leopold?
Okay. What Duterte has done, I think it inspired Jokowi, Indonesian president, in a way. That's why in the first 2-3 months, Jokowi asked the Attorney General to execute as much as like possible convicts in the death row. But I don't think Indonesia, I don't know with Malaysia, I don't think Indonesia should follow the model that Duterte has been doing. Even within Philippines, there has been like criticism that um, the possibilities or the cases that they target wrong people uh, happen. And I think Indonesia, if you remember, Mas Afif, back in 1980s, we have what we call perang terhadap preman. So all thugs, we just executed all thugs, yeah, thousands of them. All thugs just shot at sight, yeah, by a task force. It doesn't change the problem, because when we talk about drugs, we talk about an industry. Like when you talk about coffee or cigarettes, yeah, you cannot just target those who sell the coffee or tobacco or cigarettes by the streets. Yeah, you need to target the industry itself. Yeah, who produce it, and since it involves enormous amount of money, yeah, with the money transaction we have in Indonesia here, PPATK, who monitor the transaction, yeah, and they're still using bank order, yeah, payment, and so I will not agree that if Indonesia would like to follow, and it will not work, because the data shows in our prisons that more than 51% of our inmates is drug users. And it's better, if you want to serious, to deal with the trees and not to deal with those who eat the fruits. Yeah. You know where the trees are. Yeah. Why don't you do something with the trees? And also the possibility that we target the wrong people, or we already have in Indonesia, we already have problem with the accountability of the use of force. So if you sanction the similar use of force that Duterte used in Indonesia, I think we're in greater problem, because our criminal procedure code is very weak with the transparency and accountability. That's the problem in Indonesia if we follow Duterte's.
Thank you very much for your answer, Mr. Leopold Daryono. We have another question. The question is actually, when you talk about that penalty, there is human right perspective. Actually, what the human right perspective on that penalty, especially for the serious crime, then include terrorism inside, and then is with the another question is how to consider the decision making of the death penalty based on that perspective, and including what actually the challenges which may arise when we implement that penalty in
Mas Afif, itu pertanyaannya di mana ya?
it's from my friend, so it's directly.
Can you put it in the chat so I can read it?
Maybe before moving to that question, we move to the question of from Tan Agent from Taylor University, Malaysia. You can read it on the chat room. Okay. What are your thoughts on the argument that some crimes are so serious that a death penalty is justified? If hypothetically the criminal justice system is flawless, do you still think the death penalty should be abolished? What do you think about that?
Can you, Tanajin, can you give me what are those some crimes that you think death penalty is justified?
Hello, Tan Ejin, can you unmute your voice, maybe?
Hi, sorry, I couldn't unmute just now. I
Yes.
personally don't agree with this, but I've read other people's opinion, and they said that serious offenses like murder or like drug offenses. So I just wanted to know what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, this is interesting because I think there's some like bias or distortion, if you like, in the perception of the society toward what is considered justice. Yeah, and in every settings, they have like the different perception. For instance, in a setting where I think government has not been serious in dealings with rapes or in dealings with drugs, yeah, I will tend to agree with the most severe punishment, like death penalty. Yeah, because I think, yeah, up to now the government has not been serious, and they just let like bad people like keep doing the bad things, and then the call based on that, based on my perception, the call that I made, or if I became one of the judge or the prosecutor, yeah, the call that I make will be asking or indicting or handing in death penalty. But I think we need to understand that again, uh, this is this is not necessarily the true meaning of justice. Yeah, the fact that the government failed or has been late in delivering justice doesn't mean that I have to ask or call for the most severe punishment. Yeah. For instance, in the drug offenses, yeah, there might be other type of justice which will work better to stop the circulation of drugs. Or there might be better justice model or policy that will reduce rapes. Yeah, like in Indonesia, yeah, we ask for death penalty for rapes. The problem is, yeah, there has been like 3 layers that impede or become the barrier for that before the sentence. The first one, our justice system is not friendly to the victim of sexual violence. Yeah. Our criminal procedure code will require the police to ask in detail, yeah, what are the cases without being accompanied by counselor psychologists before the police can issue a letter, yeah, so we can get autopsy visum, sorry, from the doctor. Yeah. And this become the barrier because very few number of victims of the rapes then willing to go to the police to report. So the problem when we talk about justice, the problem is not just about the how heavy the sentence, but whether the justice system designed to be receptive, to be friendly, to hear the victim, to listen to the victim, yeah, to receive the report of rapes. That should be like the main focus, and that's how justice is served. Yeah, but if we just put emphasis on death penalty for rapists, but we disregard that during the investigation or prosecution, yeah, torture is still involved, they may get the wrong people inside. And because the case is already going public, there's like much pressure. And this is not the first. Many cases, yeah, Mas Afif, in Indonesia. I think even like in the Supreme Court, and the judge then, you know, like just let, because we have new evidence. Yeah. So I agree with you that we need to we need to ask for more justice for victims, for societies. But this is not necessarily by asking more severe sentence, but by improving the procedure, the criminal procedure code, yeah, for the victims of rape, by making a women or child-friendly unit. Yeah, you don't. This is I experienced myself. Yeah, when I want to get missing letter, because in Indonesia, if you're missing something, you need to get missing letter from the police. Yeah. In the police office in one area in Jakarta, it's a big office actually, one district area. There's come women, yeah, obviously crying and sad, and then he want to report, she want to report her husband, and the police kind of like, you know, like just, you know, like not taking it seriously. Like, are you serious? You know, like just messing around. Are you serious? Are you do you really want to put your husband behind, you know, like the bar? You will be alone then. Who will accompany you? You know, like I was stunned. You know, until I asked, don't you have like special room where you can get more information? And then yeah, there is upstairs. I will send her now. So you can see how this discourages like people, and this is the kind of like real justice that we need to fix in Indonesia, not just by imposing death penalty. Yeah, fix the process first. Yeah, and I don't think there will be like one, or at least for Indonesia. Yeah, it's still a long way, Tanejin, before we can say we have like flawless. I don't think there's even like one flawless. I will just you know, like leave it to God. This is his right or her right, yeah, to take life, and we just put people behind bars for life. Yeah, it's and if you see the pictures, yeah, you can see, you know, like the suffering people with life sentence has to endure. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your answer, Mr. Leopold Sayono. There are a lot of things which come to our chat room, so they are very material. Another question comes from people from Universitas Kebangsaan Malaysia. Actually, the core of the question is what are the elements needed to be put into attention, or what must be figured out and act a good criminal.
It's about the criminal law generally. What are the elements need to be put into attention in order to enact A good criminal law. Okay. Good criminal law, I think, consists of at least two or even like three elements, key elements. The first one, you have the good substantive law, in which outlines the objectives of a punishment, which or the objective of justice system, which will bind all law enforcement agencies in one coherent effort. And the second one is the Criminal Procedure Code, which respects human rights, and not only the rights of the defendants or the perpetrators, but most importantly, the rights of the victims. Yeah, because if we talk about justice, first of all, it should be about the victim, not about the offenders. And then the third one, the third element of good criminal law is administration of sentences. How sentences or justice, yeah, is administered. Will it reduce the reoffending rate or risk of offenders, or we will have them return to us in worse situation? Yeah. If this three element works, yeah, then we will have a good criminal law.
We come to another question. Thank you very much for your answer, Mr. Leopold. We have another question. It's actually from my friend who directly sending it from me. The question is, what do you think about the strategic and human rights perspective on the death penalty for terrorism in Indonesia, and how to consider the decision making of the penalty based on the perspective, including the potential challenges that rise? Please give me your insight about that.
Yeah, I think my position is still the same, even though for terrorism, I would disagree to impose death penalty, because even in the terrorism, torture still occur during the investigation. And it's possible that the result of the verdict of the judges is not something we can be responsible to God, because it consists of like flaw in obtaining information. This is the first one. The second one, with terrorism, I think not only in one religion, I think in almost all religion or based on other conviction, yeah, their goal is to immortalize their struggle. So if they can get their fighters to be executed, yeah, it's like the best present they can have, yeah, by being a hero, by being a martyr. And this happened in Indonesia. We have a number of terrorists who got executed, and then we send their bodies home, back to their village. And what happened is that it's like they're welcoming heroes, yeah. And then they got respects, and it transformed the physical struggle into something more meaningful. Yeah, this is what I called as immortalize, to immortalize their struggle. So actually, executing terrorism, doing them a favor. This is not the case. I did research on June, interviewing a number of terrorist inmates in Nusa Kambangan Island. Yeah. The situation for them is so severe. They have to decide it. Okay, I will declare my loyalty to Indonesia Unity State (NKRI). I cannot stand it any longer. Yeah, because they got like one man, one cell, 24-hour surveillance. They cannot communicate, and it gets into their nerve. It's just so difficult for them. Yeah, they don't get any recognition. Yeah, they don't get any visitor. Only core family like wife or kids. Yeah, and they around 45 of them already declared they would like to vow loyalty to Indonesia state. Yeah, so they will left their terrorist network. So I found that for death penalty may give kind of like quick satisfaction for us because we think, oh, the problem solved. It is not. Actually, for the terrorists, this is what they want. Yeah, to get their cause is being recognized by their network. The other question is about how Indonesian government control COVID-19 outbreak in the prison as in Malaysia. I think it's quite similar with Malaysia and other country. There are a number of measures. I have like different slides for this, but I will just say it. The first one, by releasing the inmates who almost finish their terms. So they have like a year left from like 5 or 6 years. So they have served like 2/3 of their term. So government will release them back to their families. The requirement is that their family willing to guarantee. Yeah. And then the second one, the risk is low. Therefore, there will be like a number of cases where government will not allow convicts to get released. First one is, of course, violence, like sexual offenders, murderers, those who stealing but with weapons, ya, pencurian dengan kekerasan, ya, corruptors, and then terrorists, ya. Those who are considered like high profile and will reoffend. The other thing is by trying to improve the protocols. So in the last 1.5 years, prison has refused to receive new inmates, new detainees. Yeah, they will only accept convicts, those who are not in appeal, those who receive the decision, the sentence. And it helps to reduce around 90,000 inmates back to societies.
We have another question that's from Dennis from University of Malaysia. Actually, his question is about judicial stance on things about rightful life in Indonesia to respond of prison conditions and hygienic and overcrowding. Because in Canada, we can see that the judicial in there are more active to respond positively in conditions of prison as part of right to life. What do you think about it?
Thank you, Dennis. I think this is something that we are also trying to advocate. The situation of prison that you just see, some picture of it, yeah, is against Constitution. because imprisonment only revoke one basic rights, which is freedom of movement. When the government detains someone, yeah, it is government responsibility to fulfill other basic rights. Yeah, because your freedom of movement is revoked, you cannot fulfill your other basic rights. So you're dependent to government. And this is something that government fail to meet. Yeah. However, in Indonesia, we don't have legal mechanism to file a complaint that this general condition is against constitution. Yeah. We cannot make a lawsuit that imprisonment is inconstitutional. Yeah, because looking at the jurisdiction of constitutional court, it is not part of the type of lawsuit that you can have. So what we can do is to advocate for the police and the prosecutor to try to use alternative detention, because detention contribute to a third of prison overcrowding, and detention, as I mentioned earlier, yeah, will be the minimum mandatory sentence. I talked with the judge asking why don't you give like more lenient sentence, like for this thief, the thief steals flip flop, sandals, yeah, tongs. The judge says, I want to just give him 15 days, but the person is already 4 months there. If I give him 15 days, yeah, the prosecutor will be under obligation to make an appeal, because if the judge deliver less than 2/3 of your what you ask in the indictment, yeah, you are legally have to make an appeal. And so if the prosecutors make an appeal, the judge say, yeah, it will take more than another 4 months for the offenders of stealing flip-flop to be in prison. So I just give him like 4 months, as long as he can just walk away. So what we can do is by involve in advocating the criminal code and criminal procedure code to make sure there will be like more transparency and accountability, yeah, in the sections regarding with detention and imprisonment. I know in some Anglo-Saxon system, in the UK, that judge, before handing in sentence, he will be or she will be given index of prison overcrowding in their jurisdiction. So they will decide whether they will give imprisonment or other type. Yeah, because there's like a connection between corrections and the judiciaries. Yeah. But not in Indonesia. So what the judiciary has been doing is issuing a letter. The Supreme Court has issuing a letter saying that for cases in which the material value of the cases, like if it's a theft, less than 2.5 million rupiahs or around 250 Australian dollars, yeah, the court will not detain them, and the court will ask the process to be. The court will ask that the case will be processed in a quicker model, yeah, peradilan cepat. But again, the police and the prosecutor refused this Supreme Court regulation, because they said this is Supreme Court regulation, doesn't apply to other agencies. So we need something that is quite binding at the law level, yeah, not just in the regulation of the each law enforcement agencies.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Leopold, for your clear and insightful answer. Uh, Jenny's question is the last question we have in this session. Actually, before moving to the next agenda, I can conclude that uh, based on Mr. Leopold's presentation, that there is major shift in torture or death penalty, which is begun by social movement which promote constitutionalism, in which sentence was shifted from bodily torture toward discipline and limited cumulative time. In terms of Indonesia during colonial era, the death penalty used more frequently, and in the Reformation era, there are 8 new laws which impose death penalty. Related to the imprisonment in Indonesia, there are three problems. The first is overcapacity, and then lack of apparatus education, and then the third is the lack of facility we have related to imprisonment and death penalty until recently remain the main strategy in handling the criminal cases in Indonesia right now. We also have a lot of uh, improvement, uh, include criminal procedure code uh, in which we embed the restorative justice inside of criminal procedure justice system. I think before closing, I think I asked Mr. Leopold uh, Daryono to give the closing remarks. Please give your closing remarks.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier, the question from Tan Engine that society always try to associate justice with punishment. But I think that's why it's understandable that by calling for death penalty, they feel that justice is served. But we must understand that justice is not just about the sentence. Justice is about the whole process, how to bring the offenders and the victims, yeah, and how treating the victims, yeah, in the whole process. It's the justice. If this type of justice, the penalty, doesn't bring any restorative effect to the victims, it's not justice. It's just satisfying our instinct for retaliation. So because justice has many aspects. If the justice, yeah, doesn't treat the alleged offenders, and this is not the first case that we got like the person wrong, then this is not the justice because we just collectively killed the wrong person. So I think our focus when we talk about justice should be trying to improve the process as a whole, not only the punishment. I think that's my take home point.
Yeah, thank you very much for your closing remarks. It's very enhancing our academic knowledge. Your presentation is wonderful and it's very insightful. So there are a lot of insights we get here today. Uh, Thank you very much for all of the participants on your participation in this podcast program. Before closing, I return the time and occasion for our Master of Ceremony, Tisha. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Afif Mahfud SHMH, and absolutely Mr. Leopold Sudaryono SHLLM for your comprehensive and insightful material. It's actually very eye-opening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we will hold the photo sessions. In order that for all the participants, please turn on your camera. Come on, guys, I will want to see your beautiful faces. Come on. Please turn on your camera. Okay. Okay, on my side, in 3, 2, 1. Okay, next slide. Give your best pose, everyone. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. Finally, we were in the end of the sessions. It has been a great and wonderful morning with all of you. May what we conduct today will be useful for us. And as the master of ceremony for on behalf of committee, would like to apologize if there is any mistake during this event. That's all for today. See you in another sessions of summer course Lex Proficia 2021. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Santi Santi Om, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan untuk kita semua. Stay safe and stay healthy all. Have a good rest, everyone. Bye. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms.